And so it's really cool to see. And I just got my, whatever you call it, my document from you guys where I actually got the shares that I
Right
invested
on.
in to transfer and buy more shares. And it's, the stock's cheap. Like it
Yeah,
seems to
no,
be, you can get a lot of
yeah.
shares.
In my humble opinion, obviously I'm no expert, but I do think we're undervalued at these levels. I think people will be surprised at how quickly we grow. And again, I'm actually excited to prove it to them. That's what gets me most excited when people are, let's call it, shortchanging you or not giving you enough credit for what you've built or where you're going. What gives us the most satisfaction, myself and company, is actually proving them wrong and saying, hey, see, I told you so.
Yeah.
So can't wait for that.
Yeah. And it's got to also kind of be a weird situation where like, some of these companies, like the price of the stock goes so high so quickly. And like for me personally, I truly do invest in the business and think of it as like I own a small percentage of this company. And like I'd rather the stock price just, slowly go up than just have these crazy swings. And like, obviously it'd be great if your share price went to $10, but you'd probably be feeling like feels a little weird. All right, Fabian, welcome back, man. It's the real estate podcast, but we talk cannabis quite often. So appreciate you coming back on, man. What I was excited about is we talked when you were just getting started, listing, going public, and I just thought it'd be cool to have a general update of what it's been like. I think it's maybe been 60, 90 days. Got my Gage hat rocking here, and
Right on.
one thing that I really love about the company,
Sorry about that.
you're good. From a social media perspective, from my angle, you guys are just like being real and like posting like what cannabis consumers like, and not necessarily posting like a typical corporate company, which I think is really cool. I don't know how involved you are on the social side, but if it's cool with you, man, I just kind of love to kind of dive into like what it's been like since listing, talk about just general updates with the company, and just dive right in.
Yeah, no. So look, when you go public, you basically get another job on your plate. You have to focus on how the company's operating, and then now you need to focus on how your stock is performing and how the company is being viewed publicly, and answer investor questions and things along those lines. And so it's been a lot of that. I've really tried to get out there and try to tell the Gage story as much as I could over the past 60 days. It's been great though overall. I think cannabis as a whole has been a little bit under pressure, I would say, over the past couple months. A little bit disappointing to not see any regulatory change happen at this point in time. Everybody was hoping and excited and keeping their fingers crossed that something was going to happen. At least, it was guided towards something happening in May. That didn't happen. Summer is just right around the corner. So, we'll continue to keep our fingers crossed for some positive regulatory changes. I think that will really be the kind of inflection point for this industry, really the next leg up. But, from our end, from I think, a lot of our competitors' end, we're continuing to execute. We don't see any slowdown in terms of consumer demand, appetite, for the product. You mentioned our social media. We put a lot of time and effort into our social media, really try to get to the consumer, to really give them that feel and taste for the brand. And so, yeah, for us, it's been exciting. We're really happy to get out there. And then more importantly, it really helps with brand building as well. More and more people get to know the name. More and more people get to know, what Gage is all about. And for us, it's more than we could ever wish for.
Yeah, man. Well, people are seeing me. I'm constantly networking and meeting people here in Austin, and wearing this Gage hat today. And people know that we're invested in it and we're involved, and they're like, what is Gage? And so it's cool. Like you're getting a little bit of recognition here in Austin, Texas.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully one day you guys will be here when things open up. I'm kind of just genuinely curious for myself. Like the way I view Gage is you guys got a great brand, great operations, and it's pretty clear on what needs to happen moving forward. Just kind of keep executing on the plans, keep the sales coming, get some new dispensaries, build out Michigan. What would you say like are some of the biggest challenges for you or the company in the position that you're in, other than just sticking to the plan and executing on what you guys want to accomplish?
Yeah, look, I think, when you're publicly traded as well, you make, you set goals, internal goals and public goals to hit. And, what keeps us up at night is we really want to hit those goals. And so we're constantly pushing, as you mentioned, executing. What keeps us up maybe at night a little bit more is just, things that are out of our control. COVID still, presents challenges when it comes to, just waiting for items, that maybe get shipped overseas. Also presents a little bit of challenges when you're, dealing from a licensing or regulatory standpoint and just trying to get things online and get things executed from a licensing and administrative standpoint. It's a little bit tougher during COVID, but, things are really opening up here in Michigan, really opening up in the US generally. So I think hopefully in the next couple of months, that's a thing of the past. But really, other than that, we're getting great feedback from our consumers. Introduced a whole variety of new strains and new flavors in the month of April, in the month of May, and also just this past week, we introduced a bunch of new cookies flavors to the market, and getting a good reaction, positive. I think everyone's just in a better upbeat mood, and more importantly, we're going to start to open up our stores again. Most of our sales since pretty much late summer have all been curbside pickup at a lot of our stores. Really excited to actually have people come back into our stores. We have a plan in place. Going to really start rolling that out over the next 60 days. Even one of our stores, Cookies Kalamazoo. It's the first adult use cookie store in the Midwest, the first in Michigan, and only a couple of people have been able to come and see it actually inside. So really excited to open that back up. And besides that, like you said, just really trying to execute. Try not to think about, what could possibly happen or the negatives, and just trying to stay focused. It's key to stay focused in this industry because there's just so many distractions all the time.
Yeah, and like it seems like it's just such a challenge with what you said. Like nobody knows what's going to happen with the regulatory framework and how that's going to shift and change. But it's something that you obviously have to try and stay on top of while you're executing your plan, because if some of those things happen, then you got to move quickly. So I'm really kind of curious, like as a business owner, CEO, like I know that there's milestones that you got to achieve, but then at the same time be flexible and adapt when things do change. Is that something that you constantly think about? Like we got to be prepared for multiple scenarios, or you just keep sticking on the plan and when it changes, you'll think about it then, I guess?
No, yeah, no, you always have to think about, almost like three different scenarios playing out for everything that you do. Generally, for what we're focused on, obviously, that predominantly being Michigan, we seem to, have things covered in that regard. But I'm referring more to, let's say, potential expansion outside of Michigan, or more like, high-level items, potential regulatory changes, et cetera, right? One of the main drivers of our contract growing partner, I shouldn't say the main driver, but one of the things of consideration was the fact that there's a lot of talk about the potential to cross state lines with product, right? And a lot of companies put a lot of time, effort into their cultivation. We were lucky to be afforded with, just a lot of licensed producers that are excited about the Gage brand, excited about the Cookies brand, willing to grow for us on a contract basis at pretty much zero cost to us. So, it was a consideration when we were thinking about that, to say, hey, like, a lot of rumors about potential, crossing state lines, cross-border, let's call it, transactions that may occur in the cannabis industry in the future. A lot of the big MSOs talking about hubs nowadays, in terms of, cultivation hubs. For us, obviously, Michigan is going to be a big hub. Overall, we'll be hopefully one of the bigger cultivators in the state by the end of this year, ramping up to 13 different facilities growing Gage and Cookies branded products. So again, you try to make the best decision possible with the information that you have available to you.
Mm-hmm.
But again, no one can predict the future. You just got to put your best foot forward, try to make the best decisions possible for the shareholders like yourself, so that when we come out on the other side or something new arises, at least we were either protected in some shape or form, or did our best to protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, from your position, being the CEO, like what percentage of the time or how close are you to the actual flower and the facilities? Like I know a big component of your business is like you said, getting the brand out and the message. Are you touring like the grow facilities and looking at the product, or is that not so much your role in what you're doing?
Yeah, look, it's, I would say my two partners, the two co-founders of the company, they are, the reason why I joined this company, to begin with. For me, I probably visited, I don't know how many grows historically in my previous legal and investment banking days. I'd say maybe it's at least over 50 locations. And so I've had the opportunity to tour, a whole variety of grows, see a whole bunch of operators. I was really impressed, with these two operators that are obviously the co-founders of Gage, both Mike and Rami. And, again, frankly, they handle the majority of the operational side of things. But, from a high level strategic standpoint, we're always, talking to each other. I probably talk to them multiple times a day, along with, the rest of the management team to really think about, where we want to go next and what we want to do. But, as a whole, in terms of, getting, let's call it getting my hands dirty on the operation or the cultivation side of things, I leave that to the experts, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I try to handle what I'm good at, or at least what I think I'm good at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously talking to you and making sure that, everyone out there is learning about the Gage story and actually figuring out what makes us so special.
Yeah. Well, what was that like for you? Because this is the first time you've been in this particular role. I know you've like you said, from the investment banking, you've been a part of taking companies to the next level.
Yeah.
Anything that you were surprised by or learned in these first 60 days since actually listing?
Yeah, no, not really much of a surprise. It's just it hits you like a ton of bricks, right? You have to be on top of your game on a consistent basis. Evidently, it's a lot of work. I try to get myself out there as much as I can, as I mentioned, to tell the Gage story and to talk about the positives of the company, and where we're going and what our plans are for not only Michigan but potentially outside of Michigan. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. Again, my previous experience has helped with that, knowing, hey, this wasn't going to be a walk in the park. But I'm having a lot of fun, to be honest with you. It's a lot of fun. You get to meet so many people all the time, not only on the investor side of things, but new brands out of state that want to come to Michigan, and it's a fun process. I think overall, myself and the Gage team are having a good time. We're achieving some great success, and just makes things a lot easier when you're working those 12, 14, 16-hour days.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, probably a lot more people start reaching out, and because obviously you guys had a good brand and a name, but some people don't see it until it gets listed, and then it really starts resonating. But a lot of people knew about it beforehand. But once you get that publicity, like I'm just imagining your emails increase 10 times and your phone calls increase 10
Totally.
times and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm fascinated. I know, there's not always things you can share other than like public information on like what's next for Gage. Like it's obvious you guys are going to build out Michigan and have a pretty clear path on what you need to do there. And from the outside, I'm like, where are they going? California, whatever. But I'm excited to see it, man. I really am. And I just wanted to generally catch up, no major agenda for this call. And, other than that, is there anything else like that you think would be important or exciting that you want to talk about the company for people that are listening?
Yeah, look, first off, we appreciate your support, and anyone who's listening, you appreciate their support, especially those that are shareholders. For me, I want to make everybody proud. I want to make everyone proud to be a Gage shareholder. We're working really hard to continue to achieve some of the same growth you saw from our Q4 to Q1 results from a financial standpoint. I think you'll see a similar kind of jump across the board in a positive way in Q2. And, that's our focus, right? Like, again, we want to continue to execute, and then more importantly, continue to expand the brand, continue to potentially partner with best-in-class brands outside of the state of Michigan and bringing them on an exclusive basis to the state of Michigan. So you'll see a little bit more from us, on that front, hopefully within the next 30 to 60 days. You'll continue to see us, open up more retail and acquire, more retail as well. We still, have our mindset on making sure that we get to that kind of 20 location goal by the end of the year. So still focused on that as well. And, again, it's just execution. I think people will be proud, to be a Gage shareholder, especially to see, when they see how we're performing over the next, couple quarters and, even a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's on the top of our mind. And just for everyone listening, and anyone who's joined today, or when you release this conversation, just want to thank them obviously for their support. Thanks for following the company. And if anyone ever has any questions, right, email us at ir@gageusa.com. We really try hard to make sure we respond to as many investor inquiries as we can on a timely basis. So ir@gageusa.com with any questions you have whatsoever on the company, and we'll be happy to respond and happy to interact with you.
Love it, man. Yeah, we'll keep representing the brand here. I got a bunch of, you guys sent me a bunch of different things, a couple hats, got some ashtrays and some rolling paper and grinder. I love it, man. It's such a cool brand, and I'm fascinated by cookies in general, like just from a business owner, like how they have made that brand the way they did. And you guys are obviously tied to them, and I feel like doing a lot of, things that complement them and also in your own way. And so it's really cool to see. And I just got my, whatever you call it, my document from you guys where I actually got the shares that I invested in to transfer and buy more shares. And it's the stock's cheap. Like it seems to be, get a lot of shares.
In my humble opinion, obviously I'm no expert, but I do think we're undervalued at these levels. I think people will be surprised at how quickly we grow. And again, I'm actually excited to prove it to them. That's what gets me most excited, when people are, let's call it, shortchanging you or not giving you enough credit for what you've built or where you're going. What gives us the most satisfaction, myself and company, is actually proving them wrong and saying, hey, see, I told you so.
Yeah.
So can't wait for that.
Yeah. And it's got to also kind of be a weird situation where, like, some of these companies, like the price of the stock goes so high so quickly. And like for me personally, I truly do invest in the business and think of it as like I own a small percentage of this company, and I'd rather the stock price just slowly go up than just have these crazy swings. And obviously it'd be great if your share price went to $10, but you'd probably be feeling like feels a little weird, because it's like so it's like a weird position, I guess.
Yeah, look, I think in this day and age we're in a situation where capital markets as a whole, it's kind of almost like a new beast, right? You have some of these companies that were basically on the verge of bankruptcy, and we all know who they are, and yet have shot up to astronomical levels. You have some Canadian like producers that have absolutely no possibility of coming anywhere close to some of the financial performance of the big MSOs, or even come anywhere close to the potential of these MSOs in any time in the near future, that are being valued in some instances even higher than some of these MSOs, right? So it's an interesting time. I think for us, as long as we continue to execute, it's like you said, I'd prefer a good solid churn up and to the right, in terms of our stock chart, sorry. And that's our focus, try to bring as much shareholder value and return to our group of followers as we can. And more importantly, just ensure that we don't get too caught up in the noise of what everyone else is doing necessarily, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to invest in a company like ours because you're actually investing. You know what I mean? You believe in the business model. If you just want to invest in the stock, then again, that's there's obviously a strategy for that as well. But for us, we're an operational business. Obviously, we're doing exceptionally well. We're growing at a very, very high pace, and hope to continue to grow at that similar pace.
Yeah, man, it's exciting. Last question: how close do you stay with other CEOs of these other big companies and MSOs? Is that a part of your business to just stay in touch and build friendships and
Yeah,
obviously future deals in the works? You try to like know all of the CEOs and all the different people at these companies?
yeah. Honestly, you know, to be frank, not all the CEOs, right? Not all the CEOs or not all the executives at all these other companies, but a couple of them I do know, from my past life, and more importantly, do encounter on a consistent basis. Know a couple of the CEOs of some of the competitors in Michigan as well. I think as a whole, it's a pretty close family when it comes to the cannabis industry. Obviously, you see some of these executives at various conferences, at least when we could go in person, and then frankly, you still see them when you're online as well. So again, it's a close community. We're all technically competitors, but we feel that we're all part of the same movement, right? There's the movement to get this industry to a legalized state, not a legalized, let's call it zone, eventually from a federal standpoint, sorry. And if we can get to something close to that, or just hopefully even something along the lines of just having proper access to banking, proper access to just the ability, sorry, to say to actually list on a U.S. exchange. I think we're all in the same boat, and we're all kind of pushing for the same things. So yeah, keep in touch with some of them, but obviously not all of them.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's funny because I'm, obviously we're doing real estate here, but I love cannabis, and I try to get multiple guys on the podcast, and just I'm in such an outside perspective where I like start to know you a little better, but know these other guys. I'm like, I wonder if they're gonna team up one day. It's just fascinating to think about.
I think as time goes by, um, more of the companies that we all know today will continue to work together or maybe band together. We saw with the True Leave and Harvest deal, where again, consolidation is coming in the space. You're going to see maybe even some really big players merge, or continue. Let's call it to merge. Harvest was a pretty big company, obviously from a value standpoint. So again, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be
Yeah,
interesting next couple months and next couple years.
it is. It's fascinating to watch. It's fun, and real estate is like pretty clear what happens and how it works. There's not like tons of
Yeah,
innovation and changes. So it's like, yeah, this is what real estate looks like. Cannabis, on the other hand, fast paced, laws are changing, people's minds are changing, the plant's getting out there.
yeah,
And it's fun to at least see and then just try to figure out how to get more and more plugged in, whether that's buying stock or even just trying to keep relationships for when things maybe happen in Texas and figure out how to add value on that front.
yeah.
Yeah. Right on, man. Well, we had like a little bit of a cutting out in the last minute, but no worries at all. I just appreciate your time, Fabian, and I'm very excited. As always, if there's anything that I can do to add value, keep me in mind here in Texas. And just proud to be a shareholder, and I'm glad that you're leading the charge. And we'll keep supporting and promoting Gage, and excited to see the next quarter. So thanks for everything that you do, man. And it's really inspiring to know that you truly care about this company and that you're leading the ship. So I appreciate you.
Thanks so much for the kind words. Obviously, thanks for your support, and thanks for having me on today. And happy to come on anytime and talk about Gage. As especially if we have a big announcement in the future and it's something you want more information on, I'm happy to join and chat about it.
Awesome, man. Love it. We'll keep doing that. And hope you have a great day. Any last minute things that you need or you want to touch on for any listeners?
No, yeah, no. Like I said earlier, if anyone has any questions, follow us at GAEGF.com. Obviously, we trade on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the symbol GAGE. And if you want to buy us on the OTC on the pink sheets, GAEGF.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much, Fabian. Appreciate your time. Hope you have a good day.
All right. Thank you.